Hi everyone, welcome. We're gonna wait about a minute for people to come in before getting started. So make sure to use the Q&A function for any concerns. Okay, so it's been a minute, so we're gonna get started. Um, so I'm just gonna do another welcome. So hi everyone, welcome. The topic for today is the future of 3D printing and its role in healthcare. So let's get into it. Have you ever considered what a future could look like with 3D printing in healthcare? So today we're going to take a sneak peek into that future. So this is our amazing team. We are 9 students dedicated to bringing awareness of the life-saving and life-improving potential of 3D printing. And today we'll be discussing the rise of 3D printed medical devices. So this is the outline for our presentation. So we're going to be starting off with what 3D printing is right now in the current climate. Then we're going to move into the main topic, which is the future of 3D printing, before getting into impacts and benefits of this future. Then the last topic we have is the limitations of 3D printing in medical care. And then we're going to end off with a quick summary before moving into a discussion and Q&A with you guys. So we wanted to start off with a quick poll. So how much do you know about 3D printing? I think most of you are somewhat familiar, so we're going to get started. So what is 3D printing? It's a part of a process also known as additive manufacturing, where an object is created by adding materials such as plastics, metals, or ceramic layer by layer. It allows designers to create complex parts at a fraction of the cost and time of standard means, such as molding, sculpting, and forging. To readily manufacture objects and engineer prototypes, a digital 3D file is created using a computer-aided or CAD software design. So the current role of healthcare uses for 3D printing can be characterized into 5 main categories: dentistry, tissue and organ fabrication, anatomical 3D models, pharmaceuticals, and patient-specific orthopedic medical devices. Overall, 3D printing offers an easy manufacturing method that is less expensive and where the end products can be tailored specifically or personalized for the patient in the healthcare industry. So now into the main topic, which is where is 3D printing headed? First of all, mass production. There is a big demand for mass production of 3D printed products in times of crises, like in today's global pandemic, due to its fast production speed and cost effectiveness. And then there's 4D printing. So 4D printing is based on 3D printing of smart materials to create dynamic structures with the ability to self-fold or unfold. It integrates a fourth dimension, mainly time, so printed products have the capability to change their configuration over time, such as a change in shape in response to environmental conditions like moisture. Within pharmaceuticals, 4D printing could reinvigorate the concepts of drug delivery. So this is because since 4D printing could further utilize smart materials to create medications which were previously challenging to produce. So now we're going to get into COVID-19 focused devices and technology. So as we know, masks are the central item that we can wear to reduce exposure to the virus and stay protected when going outside. Face shields enable full facial protection and can be 3D printed more easily. Self-production of PPE has been adopted in response to supply chains under pressure this summer. So a face DIY shield, as we have here on the right, quite simply, it's made up of a printed plastic semicircle visor, which is attached by glue to a piece of foam that rests on the forehead. Then a long sheet of transparent plastic film rests on it. The whole unit is then held together with an elastic. So DIY shields can be cheaply manufactured, easily sanitized, and then reused. So they are less constrained by regulatory restrictions compared to respiratory face masks as well. The next technology we have are hands-free door handle opener attachments. So they help to avoid touching high contact surfaces, which door handles are. So we're going to play a quick video developed by the company Materialize to demonstrate how this works.
Door handles are said to be among the most contagious places in a building. And we used our engineering skills and 3D printing possibilities to create parts that can be placed on the door handles and enable to open them with your arm or elbow. We have decided to make this design available for free on a worldwide basis. We call upon everyone who has access to a 3D printer to 3D print this part and to make this part available to his local community in order to make the door handle safer.
So here are two more pieces of accessories that are designed to fight COVID-19. So the first one we have are hand sanitizer holders. So these are wrist attachments that lets you apply sanitizer on your hands without having to touch the bottle directly, which ensures that germs are not transmitted to the bottle itself. The second one we have is a nose bracket. So this is a clip-on nose bracket that stops your mask from slipping off the face and also stops excess fogging for people who wear glasses, which is a huge issue for people who wear them. The next COVID-19 focused technology we have are test swabs. So as I'm sure you might know, test swabs are an essential part of a COVID testing kit for medical workers. So swabs are called nasopharyngeal swabs or NP swabs. And after multiple tests, results have shown that 3D printed nasal swabs from foreign labs can perform as good or even better than traditional swabs. So just in Canada alone, there have been more than 11 million COVID tests conducted as of the 26th of November. So therefore, it's safe to say that this technology is absolutely critical in today's climate. The last COVID-19 focused technology we want to talk about is lung models. So these are created using a CT scan of a COVID patient on day 14 as a base. It helps other professionals to see how the virus makes itself apparent in the lungs and understand damage caused in the long term, and also helps to see scar tissue and inflammatory pus. So now we're going to do a quick spotlight on another innovation, which is a wearable. So innovative wearable technology can be extremely useful and convenient. In the future, 3D printed wearable technology can become the norm. One very timely example of a wearable technology is this DIY wearable necklace called Pulse, released by NASA. So the sensor in this device makes you aware of when you touch your face, which is actually very common. We touch our faces around 2,000 times a day. So as I'm sure you know, touching your face is an easy way to spread germs and contract diseases such as COVID-19. So this necklace works to combat this by attempting to modify our behavioral tendency to touch our faces. So I'm going to show you a quick video to demonstrate how this works.
A small team at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory developed the concept of Pulse. It is a 3D printed pendant worn as a necklace which pulses or vibrates to warn a person when their hand is nearing their face. It is most effective when worn 6 inches below your chin. The haptic feedback from a vibration motor simulates a nudge, reminding the wearer to avoid touching their face in order to reduce potential infection. This concept is intended to stand side by side with the existing efforts and is not meant to take the place of masks or respirators. Pulse is made of simple and affordable components powered by a 3-volt battery, all housed within a 3D printed case.
With reference to a report called The Future of Healthcare by Deloitte, let's move on to the impacts on different stakeholders within relation to the future direction 3D printing is headed towards. So we're going to start off with the patients and the public. So ideally, patients can receive immediate treatment with hospitals having immediate access to printable medical supplies. So this means that some services that usually take longer due to distance and transportation issues can be shortened through the use of remote operations. For example, a custom prosthesis by remote scan in rapid time, or even in a hospital in real time. We can also see the transition to at-home production of health items and medical products. So home production will become mainstream thanks to lower costs. People can start to make health items that don't need strict regulations, such as pill holders and first aid kits. The next impact is on healthcare providers. So primarily, it will serve as a tool for education and in preparing for complicated surgical work. Providers will have more access to technology at a lower cost, like with the public. Printing centers will also start to open close to operating theaters. So this large-scale expansion won't happen until regulations are developed faster, but it's in the future. The next impact is on life sciences companies. So we'll see increased R&D activity will occur with regards to exploring 3D printing capabilities and practicalities. So major companies in the market will implement 3D printing for mass production. Mass customization will also be achievable due to printers that display high speed and accuracy. We'll see a continued curbing of commercialization, especially in areas like bioprinting. The trend for using 3D printing for prototyping will most likely stay. The absence of production standards could, however, halt mass production. And new innovative companies will also make it their main business. So this will mean new competitors, as in new companies emerging both globally and locally as a result. The last impact we want to go over is on business and production. So we will see 3D printed equipment being purchased solely by individual hospitals before moving mainstream. So this will mean privately equipped hospitals and most likely be developing regulatory restrictions concerning this. We will also see the formation of regional public hubs for 3D printing, which will ultimately alter supply chains and make the point of use simplified. In terms of the supply chain itself, this year, many manufacturers and suppliers have been put under the strain to produce equipment with a quick turnaround time in the pandemic. So the widespread use of 3D printing in the future will solve supply chain strains. So the last topic is the limitations of 3D printing. So with all the amazing capabilities of 3D printing, why is it still uncommon in regular practice? The main limitations of 3D printing, 3D printed objects are both technical and quality control issues. However, if we find solutions that make 3D printing more practical, we can definitely count on a more use of this technology. So in terms of 3D printed surgical training models, one major limitation is that the entire production process cannot be conducted in-house. So third-party assembly is always required, which means additional time and costs. If in the future we were to move towards a more wholly in-house process, this could increase efficiency and lower costs, so inevitably leading to higher demand of 3D printing. Another issue with these models is that they're usually made up of a singular material, which is obviously not consistent with human body's tissue textures, so it creates anatomical inaccuracies even if they appear visually accurate. Another major setback is that the FDA standards need to be approved before products can be used in clinical settings. So FDA approval is obviously important for 3D print in the healthcare industry, as the margin for error has to be extremely small. However, recently the FDA has set up an emerging technology team, which is a group of pharmaceutical experts to support and promote the regulatory evaluation of emerging manufacturing technologies, which includes the overlooking of 3D printing. So we could definitely see 3D printing in the healthcare sooner than later in the future. So our second poll for today is, do you think the positives outweigh the limitations, and would you consider being treated by a 3D printed product either as a healthcare professional, supplier, or a patient? Okay, it looks like a lot of you are very optimistic about the future. So to summarize, 2020 has been a year where 3D printing has shown its capabilities to protect lives. While there are technical and regulatory limitations that come with the technology, 3D printing is on its way to solidifying a place in the healthcare industry. So as we move into the Q&A, I just wanted to start off with a discussion starter. So what was the most surprising thing that you learned about 3D printing today and its future in the healthcare industry? Thank you so much for paying attention and listening. You can start with this discussion or send in any questions using the Q&A function below, and we'll be answering your questions in the next 5 minutes. So I see some questions coming in. I think my colleague is gonna ask them.
So we've had a lot of great questions coming in. I'll start off with this question here that's asking, if this person wants to learn how to 3D print at home, how should they get started?
That's a great question. So in terms of 3D printing at home, it's actually starting to become a lot more accessible. It's actually pretty feasible to buy an at-home 3D printer more than you'd think so. So Creality's Ender 3 is a 3D printer recommended to a lot of beginners, and it costs less than $300 actually. So you can get it on sites like Amazon and Walmart.
Another question we've had, so where can this person find COVID-19 3D print designs, specifically the ones in our webinar, I presume?
That's actually a really good question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but if you drop your email below in the Q&A function, I'd love to get back to you on that to give you the specific resources. But thank you so much. That's such an interesting question.
Another question. In our opinion, how dependent should we be on 3D printing as a developing society?
Oh, thank you so much for your feedback. That was very sweet. So although yes, 3D printing is in the future, we believe that we shouldn't be so dependent on it. So there's only so much that 3D printing can do. There are still limitations to consider, like the ones that we went over. So, like, not everybody can have access to that technology so fast. And the process also tends to be more expensive if it will be used for smaller projects. So, the cost of materials and electricity are just a few things to think about before deciding to go with that process.
Another question, within the next 5 years, what do you believe is going to happen in the 3D printing world?
Thank you so much for that question. So, as mentioned before, we believe that the next step for 3D printing is 4D printing. It will not only impact the healthcare sector, but also the automotive, defense, and aerospace industries. So, it could create printed solar panels actually to power satellites, as 4D printing can develop materials that can adapt better to the sun and environmental changes. So, I think that's very promising and interesting.
Another person is asking, are downloadable 3D printing files free?
So there are various sites where designers post their 3D printed files, which are STL files, for free and for purchase. For instance, mentioned earlier slides, the clip for the nose bracket is free to download. So to check out sites like My Mini Factory, Cults 3D, and CG Trader to look for more 3D models. But I think it ultimately depends on the file itself. We have another minute or so before we wrap up. So any last
Another
questions?
question. So for someone new to 3D or 4D printing, what basic skills are required?
So for basic skills, I would just say that you need to know how those files and the software works. So there's basic levels of knowledge concerning the use of the technology itself. So more so technical skills more than anything else. But for more information, definitely check out our website on beginning 3D printing. So I see that it's 10:50, so we're actually running out of time. But thank you so much for attending our webinar and for all the wonderful questions. You guys asked a lot of interesting questions. We have to wrap up now due to time constraints, but please feel free to check our website, which we'll link in the chat for more information and any further queries. And if we said we'd get back to you, please just give in your email at the bottom and we will. So thank you so much.